Millionaire saw his fiancée slap the nanny and scream, "You don't belong in this family." His next move shocked everyone. "Hi, my beautiful family. First, let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you with peace, joy, and strength. May your homes be filled with love, your children be blessed, and every tear you shed be replaced with laughter. Amen." Now I must speak from my heart. I know many of you who come here for the first time carry trust issues. You wonder, is this channel real? Is this man sincere? My family, I understand, but hear me. Everything I give here is true. Every story costs me time, sacrifice, and love. Yet my heart aches. Many of you leave the story halfway. Do you know how that feels? Like my sleepless nights and hard work mean nothing. Not because of numbers, but because I give my soul. Still, I love you. You are my family. Whether new or old, you matter to me. If your heart is true, write present. If your love is real, write I am with Mr. Peter, because I need to see my real family standing strong with me. To my new family, welcome. Give me your trust and watch till the end. You will see the love I pour into every second. And because I listened, I created a new channel, Mr. Peter Family, for shorter videos under 1 hour. You can find the link in my community post. Some men are born to build empires, but Matt Anderson learned that even billionaires cannot purchase back the dead or fill the silence left by a heart that no longer beats. The Miami sunrise painted the Anderson mansion in shades of gold and amber, but Matt Anderson saw only shadows. Standing in the pristine nursery overlooking Biscayne Bay, he held his 3-month-old son Tyler against his chest, feeling the tiny heartbeat that had cost him everything he'd ever loved. Isabella was gone. 3 months had passed since the complications during Tyler's birth had stolen his wife from him, yet the silence in their Coral Gables estate still felt deafening. The 20,000-square-foot mansion, once filled with Isabella's laughter and the scent of her oil paintings, now felt like a beautiful mausoleum. Matt had built a tech empire worth over $2 billion, had conquered markets and competitors alike, but he couldn't conquer the emptiness that consumed him every time Tyler cried for a mother who would never come. "Mr. Anderson," the voice of Patricia Donnelly from Miami's most exclusive nanny agency cut through his thoughts. "I have one more candidate for you to meet. I believe she might be exactly what Tyler needs." Matt turned from the floor-to-ceiling windows, his steel-grey eyes reflecting the exhaustion that no amount of Cuban coffee could cure. In the 3 months since Isabella's funeral, he'd interviewed 12 nannies. Each one had been professionally competent, highly recommended, and utterly forgettable. Tyler had rejected them all with piercing cries that seemed to echo Matt's own grief. "I don't know, Patricia," Matt said, his voice hoarse from another sleepless night. "Tyler hasn't responded well to anyone. Maybe it's too soon. Trust me on this one, Mr. Anderson. Asya Williams is different." The woman who entered the nursery moved with quiet grace, her warm brown eyes immediately finding Tyler instead of taking in the obvious luxury surrounding them. She was beautiful in an understated way. No designer clothes or perfectly styled hair, just simple elegance in a cream blouse and navy skirt. But it was her expression that stopped Matt cold. She was looking at Tyler the way Isabella used to look at her paintings, with pure, uncomplicated love. "Hello, little one," Asya said softly, and Tyler's constant fussing suddenly stilled. "What a beautiful boy you are." Matt felt his breath catch. Tyler hadn't stopped crying for a stranger in months. "I'm Asya Williams," she said, finally looking up at Matt, with eyes that held genuine warmth rather than the calculating ambition he'd grown accustomed to seeing in Miami's social circles. "Patricia has told me so much about Tyler." "And what exactly did she tell you?" Matt asked, his CEO instincts automatically testing her. "That he's a little boy who misses his mama," Asya replied simply, "and that his daddy is doing everything he can to fill that space, but sometimes love needs a woman's touch." Something in her voice, the absence of pity, the presence of understanding, made Matt's carefully constructed walls crack slightly. Tyler hasn't taken well to caregivers. He cries constantly. The pediatrician says he's healthy, but he's grieving too, Asya finished. Babies feel everything we feel, Mr. Anderson. They just don't have words for it yet. As if responding to her voice, Tyler turned his head toward Asya and made a soft, cooing sound. Matt stared in amazement. His son hadn't made a peaceful sound in weeks. "Would you mind if I held him?" Asya asked. Matt hesitated. Tyler's rejections of other nannies had been brutal, screaming fits that lasted hours, refusing bottles, rejecting comfort. But something about this woman felt different. Slowly, he passed Tyler into her arms. The change was immediate and miraculous. Tyler settled against Asya's shoulder with a contented sigh, his tiny fist curling around her necklace, a simple silver cross that caught the morning light. Without thinking, Asya began humming a soft lullaby, swaying gently as if she'd been caring for Tyler his entire short life. Matt felt tears he'd been holding back for months threaten to fall. "How?" he whispered. "Sometimes healing recognizes healing," Asya said quietly, still swaying with Tyler. "I lost my mama when I was Tyler's age. My grandmother used to tell me that love leaves an echo in our hearts, and babies can hear those echoes better than anyone." "What happened to your parents?" Matt asked, surprised by his own curiosity. He never asked personal questions during interviews. "Mama died in a car accident when I was a baby. Daddy couldn't handle raising me alone, so my grandmother took me in. She taught me that love isn't about blood or marriage certificates. It's about showing up every day with your whole heart." Asya's voice carried no bitterness, only quiet strength. "Tyler doesn't need someone to replace his mama. He needs someone to help him feel her love through new hands." For the first time in months, Tyler was completely peaceful. His breathing had evened out, and he was making the soft baby sounds that Matt remembered from those precious first weeks before Isabella's complications set in. "Where are you from, Miss Williams?" Matt asked, trying to maintain some semblance of a professional interview, while his son demonstrated more trust in a stranger than he'd shown anyone in months. "Born and raised in Liberty City, went to nursing school at Miami-Dade College," Asya replied. "I've been working with children for 8 years now. Patricia has all my references and background checks." Matt nodded, though he realized he didn't care about references anymore. Tyler's peaceful breathing against Asya's shoulder told him everything he needed to know. "I should mention," Asya continued, "I don't just see this as a job. Children need consistency, love, and someone who sees them as the most important part of every day. If you hire me, I'll love Tyler like he's my own. That's not something I can turn on and off." "And when he gets attached to you?" Matt asked, voicing his deepest fear. "What happens when he starts calling you Mama?" Asya looked directly into Matt's eyes, her gaze steady and honest. "Then I'll make sure he knows how lucky he is to have a daddy who loves him enough to make sure he never goes without a mother's love, even if it comes from someone new." Tyler chose that moment to reach up and touch Asya's cheek, his tiny fingers exploring her face with the curiosity of a child who'd found something wonderful and new. Asya smiled down at him, and Tyler responded with a gummy grin that Matt hadn't seen in weeks. "The position offers full room and board," Matt said, his voice thick with emotion he was trying to suppress. "Private suite on the second floor. Salary is $200,000 annually, plus benefits and a car." "Mr. Anderson," Asya said carefully, "I need you to know that I don't care about any of that. I care about Tyler. If you're looking for someone to just keep him fed and clean while you work, you need a different person. If you want someone who'll sing to him when he has nightmares, teach him his mama's name so he grows up knowing he was loved, and make sure this big house feels like a home, then I'm your girl." Matt watched as Tyler grabbed onto Asya's finger, holding tight like he was afraid she might disappear. In that moment, Matt made a decision that would change all their lives. "When can you start?" he asked. "Right now, if you need me to," Asya replied without hesitation. "There's just one thing," Matt said, his businessman's caution reasserting itself. "My mother visits frequently, and she has strong opinions about Tyler's upbringing. She can be difficult." "Mr. Anderson," Asya said with quiet dignity, "I've been underestimated my whole life because of where I come from and what I look like. But I've never let anyone's opinion stop me from doing what's right for a child. If your mother's main concern is Tyler's well-being, we'll get along fine." As Patricia Donnelly completed the paperwork in Matt's study, Asya continued to hold Tyler, who had fallen into the first peaceful sleep he'd had in days. Matt found himself watching them from the doorway, something stirring in his chest that wasn't quite grief and wasn't quite hope. In Tyler's nursery, he noticed something that made his breath catch, a small wrapped gift on the changing table with Isabella's handwriting. "For Tyler, when he needs extra mama love. Give to the woman who loves him like I do. You'll know her by his smile. Isabella." Matt stared at the gift he'd somehow overlooked during months of grief. Inside was a soft grey stuffed elephant with gentle eyes and a note. "Every little boy needs something to hold when the world feels scary. This elephant will remind him he's loved even when Mama's not in the room." His hands trembling, Matt looked at Asya humming to Tyler, at his son's peaceful expression, and realized Isabella had somehow known this moment would come. "She's good for him," Patricia said quietly, appearing beside Matt. "Yes," Matt agreed, clutching Isabella's gift. "I think my wife would have loved her." Outside, Miami's endless summer stretched across the bay, and for the first time since Isabella's death, Matt Anderson felt like his wife was still guiding their family toward love. He didn't know that the woman now humming lullabies to his son would not only heal Tyler's broken heart, she would eventually teach Matt how to love again. Tyler stirred in Asya's arms, opened his eyes, and looked directly at his father with an expression of such pure contentment that Matt's breath caught. His son was going to be okay. They were all going to be okay. For the first time in months, Matt Anderson smiled. Chapter 2. A Mother's Love Grows. Love arrives quietly sometimes, like morning light creeping across Miami Bay, so gentle you don't notice it's transforming everything until you're already living in a completely different world. 8 months had passed since Asya Williams first stepped into the Anderson mansion, and Tyler's laughter now echoed through halls that had known only silence since Isabella's death. At 11 months old, he was a chubby-cheeked bundle of energy who babbled constantly, clapped his hands when Asya entered the room, and had developed the endearing habit of trying to feed her his breakfast with his tiny fingers. Matt stood in his home office doorway at 7 in the morning, watching Asya and Tyler in the sunlit breakfast nook that overlooked the infinity pool. She was singing softly while Tyler sat in his high chair, more interested in watching her face than eating his mashed bananas. The scene was so perfect, so naturally maternal, that Matt felt his chest tighten with an emotion he wasn't ready to name. "Good morning, Mama Asya," Tyler suddenly called out, clapping his hands with delight. The spoon Asya was holding clattered to the table. Matt felt his world tilt slightly on its axis. "Oh, Tyler," Asya said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "Sweetie, I'm not your mama. Your mama is watching you from heaven." But Tyler was 11 months old and concerned only with the woman who sang to him, fed him, and made everything better when he was sad. "Mama Asya," he repeated with even more enthusiasm, reaching his sticky hands toward her face. Matt watched Asya's internal struggle play out across her expressive features. She glanced toward his office, not knowing he was there, and he saw her quickly wipe away a tear before lifting Tyler from his high chair. "Okay, little man," she whispered, holding him close. "But you know your real mama loved you so much, right? She picked you out special before you were even born." Tyler responded by patting her cheek and babbling what sounded remarkably like, "Love Mama Asya." Matt gripped the doorframe, feeling something crack open in his chest. When was the last time he'd heard the word mama spoken with such pure joy in his house? When was the last time Tyler had looked at anyone with such complete trust and adoration? "Mr. Anderson?" Asya had noticed him standing there. "I'm sorry, I've been trying to correct him, but—" "Don't," Matt said, his voice rougher than intended. "Don't correct him. Isabella would have wanted him to have a mother's love. She would have wanted him to call someone mama." The relief that flooded Asya's face was so profound that Matt realized she'd been carrying the weight of Tyler's attachment like a burden rather than the gift it truly was. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to overstep." "You couldn't overstep if you tried," Matt interrupted, stepping into the breakfast nook. "Look at him, Asya. Really look at him." Tyler was glowing with happiness, babbling excitedly while showing Asya his favorite toy car. His eyes sparkled with an intelligence and joy that had been absent during those first difficult months after Isabella's death. "He's thriving because of you," Matt continued. "You gave me my son back." Asya's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of joy. "He's such a special little boy, so smart and sweet. Sometimes I forget he's not." She trailed off, looking embarrassed. "Sometimes you forget he's not yours," Matt finished gently. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "That's what makes you perfect for him," Matt said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. 2 months later, Tyler took his first wobbly steps across the living room, not to his father, but directly to Asya, who was sitting on the floor with her arms outstretched, calling encouragement. Matt watched from the doorway as his son toddled the 6 feet that separated them, his face bright with determination and joy. "Mama Asya, I walking!" Tyler announced as he fell into her arms, both of them laughing with delight. Matt felt his heart constrict with an emotion so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. This was what family looked like. This was what love sounded like. Later that morning, while Tyler napped, Matt found himself lingering in the nursery doorway again, a habit he'd developed over the past months. Asya was organizing Tyler's photo album, the one she'd created to document every milestone. She'd taken hundreds of pictures, Tyler's first solid foods, his attempts to crawl, his delighted face covered in birthday cake from his first birthday party last month. On the nightstand sat the grey stuffed elephant that Asya had given Tyler during his first week of care, the same elephant from Isabella's hidden gift. Matt had watched in amazement as Tyler, who had rejected every toy and comfort item for months, had immediately bonded with the elephant the moment Asya placed it in his crib. "It was like he was waiting for it," Asya had said that day, not knowing the elephant had been Isabella's final gift, like it was always meant to be his. Matt had nearly told her about Isabella's note then, but something held him back. Maybe it was too perfect. Too impossible to believe that his dead wife had somehow guided this woman to give their son exactly what he needed, exactly when he needed it. "The crawling pictures came out beautifully," Matt said, entering the room. "He's so determined," Asya replied, smiling at a photo of Tyler pulling himself across the Italian marble floor, his face scrunched in concentration, his elephant clutched in one small fist. "Yesterday he crawled all the way from the living room to find me in the kitchen." "He follows you everywhere," Matt observed, and there was something in his tone that made Asya look up from the photo album. "Is that a problem?" she asked carefully. "No," Matt said, surprising himself with the honesty in his voice. "Actually, I think I'm a little jealous." Asya's eyebrows rose. "Jealous?" "When I come home from work, Tyler smiles when he sees me, but his whole face lights up when he sees you. When he's hurt, he wants you. When he's scared, he calls for you. When he learned to clap, he clapped for you. Matt sat down in the rocking chair where he'd watched Asya comfort Tyler countless times. I used to come home to silence. Now I come home to hear your voice reading him stories, or both of you laughing in the garden. Mr. Anderson. Matt, he corrected. We've been living in the same house for 8 months, Asya. I think we can use first names. Matt, she said, and something about the way his name sounded in her voice made his pulse quicken. Tyler loves you deeply. You're his daddy. That's a different kind of love than what he has with me, but it's just as important. I know, Matt said, but sometimes I come home and hear you singing to him, and I remember what this house used to sound like when Isabella was alive. You brought music back into our home. The admission hung between them, more intimate than Matt had intended. He saw Asya's breath catch, saw the way her hand stilled on the photo album. Isabella had a beautiful voice, Asya said softly. Tyler has her musical ear. Have you noticed how he tries to hum along when I sing? I've noticed, Matt said, his voice barely above a whisper. And I've noticed that somehow you knew exactly what he needed before any of us did, he thought, looking at the elephant that had bridged the gap between his wife's love and this woman's care. That afternoon brought an unwelcome interruption to their peaceful routine. Misha Anderson arrived unannounced, as was her custom, sweeping into the mansion like a perfectly coiffed hurricane. At 62, Matt's mother remained strikingly beautiful, but her beauty had hardened over the years into something sharp and calculating. Matthew, she said, offering her cheek for the perfunctory kiss he dutifully provided, you look thin. That woman isn't feeding you properly. That woman has a name, Mother. It's Asya, and I'm eating fine. Misha's pale blue eyes swept the foyer, taking in the family photos Asya had arranged on the console table. Candid shots of Matt and Tyler, Tyler's first birthday party, Tyler playing in the garden. She's certainly made herself at home. Matt felt his jaw clench. She lives here, Mother. This is her home. No, Matthew, this is your home. She works here. Misha's tone was ice cold. There's a difference, and it's important that everyone understands that difference. Before Matt could respond, the sound of Tyler's delighted laughter echoed from the garden, followed by Asya's voice singing what sounded like a nursery rhyme. Misha's expression grew even more pinched. She's teaching him street songs, Misha said disapprovingly. She's teaching him to be happy, Matt countered, his patience fraying. They walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the garden, where Asya was pushing Tyler on the swing Matt had installed last month. Tyler was shrieking with joy, his chubby arms stretched toward the sky, completely secure in Asya's hands. "Mama, Asya, higher!" Tyler called out, and Matt watched his mother's face turn to stone. "Did he just call her Mama?" Misha asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "Yes. And you allow this?" "I encourage it," Matt said firmly. "Tyler needs a mother figure, and Asya loves him like her own son." "That," Misha said, turning to face her son with eyes like chips of ice, "is exactly the problem. She's the help, Matthew. She's not his mother, she's not family, and she certainly isn't going to be around forever. What happens when Tyler gets too attached and she leaves for a better opportunity?" "She's not going anywhere," Matt said, though he realized he'd never actually asked Asya about her long-term plans. "Everyone has a price, son. Everyone leaves eventually. And when she does, Tyler will be heartbroken, and you'll be left picking up the pieces." Misha straightened her designer jacket with sharp, angry movements. "Mark my words, Matthew. That woman is going to cause nothing but trouble for this family." That evening, after Misha had left and Tyler was asleep, Matt found Asya in the garden where she often sat after putting Tyler to bed. She was reading in the soft glow of the garden lights, but she looked up when she heard his footsteps. "I hope Tyler wasn't too wound up after playing with your mother," she said diplomatically. Matt sat down beside her on the stone bench, noting how she automatically shifted to make room for him. "My mother can be difficult. She loves Tyler," Asya said carefully. "That's what matters. She made some comments today about Tyler calling you Mama, about your place in this family." Matt looked at Asya's profile in the moonlight, noting the tension in her shoulders. "I want you to know that I don't share her opinions." "What are her opinions?" Asya asked quietly. Matt hesitated, then decided on honesty. "She thinks you're going to leave someday and break Tyler's heart." Asya was quiet for so long that Matt began to worry he'd said the wrong thing. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but sad. "Is that what you think too?" "No," Matt said, and realized he meant it completely. "I think you're the best thing that's happened to Tyler since he was born. I think you saved both of us from drowning in grief. And I think—" He paused, the words on the tip of his tongue more honest than he was ready to be. "What?" Asya asked, turning to face him. "I think this house became a home again the day you walked into it," Matt admitted. In the soft garden lighting, Asya's eyes seemed to shimmer with unshed tears. "Matt, I need you to know something. I would never hurt Tyler. I would never leave him unless you asked me to. He's everything to me." "I know," Matt said softly. "That's what scares my mother. And if I'm being honest, it scares me a little too." "Why?" Matt looked at this woman who had brought laughter back into his house, who had taught his son to trust and love again, who hummed while she cooked breakfast and left little notes in Tyler's lunch bag even though he was too young to read them. He thought about how he'd started timing his business meetings to be home for Tyler's bath time, not because he wanted to see his son, but because he wanted to hear Asya's voice echoing through the house. "Because I'm starting to depend on you too," he admitted. The confession hung between them like a bridge. Neither was quite ready to cross. But in the garden of the Anderson mansion, under the Miami stars, something was growing that would prove stronger than Misha's disapproval and more powerful than grief. Tyler's happy voice calling Mama Asya drifted through the baby monitor, talking in his sleep, and both Matt and Asya smiled. Love, it seemed, had found them when they weren't looking. Chapter 3. The manipulation begins. There are storms that announce themselves with thunder and lightning, and then there are the quiet hurricanes that wear designer perfume and speak in whispered cruelties, destroying everything in their path with surgical precision. The dinner party was Misha Anderson's idea, naturally. She'd insisted on hosting it at Matt's mansion, claiming she wanted to bring some proper society back into Tyler's life. As servers moved efficiently through the dining room, Miami's elite mingled on the terrace overlooking Biscayne Bay, their laughter mixing with the gentle sound of waves. Asya had offered to take Tyler upstairs during the party, but Matt had insisted she join them. She looked elegant in a simple black dress from Aventura, her natural beauty requiring no enhancement beyond pearl earrings that had belonged to her grandmother. She stood near the garden doors, quietly watching Tyler play with his toys in his playpen. "So that's the nanny everyone's been talking about," whispered Patricia Velasquez, wife of a prominent Miami developer. "She's quite beautiful." "Beautiful and knows it," replied Carmen Rodriguez, whose husband owned half the restaurants in South Beach. "Look how comfortable she is, mingling with guests instead of staying in the kitchen where she belongs." Misha Anderson approached with predatory grace. "Ladies, I see you've noticed our Tyler's caregiver. Such a devoted girl. Perhaps too devoted, if you ask me." "What do you mean?" asked Patricia, leaning closer. "Well," Misha said conspiratorially, "Tyler calls her Mama. Can you imagine? My grandson calling the help Mama." The women exchanged loaded glances. In their world, boundaries were everything. "Matthew allows this?" Carmen asked, scandalized. "My son has been through so much since Isabella's death," Misha replied with practiced maternal concern. "I'm afraid his judgment regarding household staff has become clouded." Across the terrace, Asya was crouched beside Tyler's playpen, helping him stack colorful blocks while he babbled happily. She was completely absorbed in the toddler's delight, unaware of the conversation taking place 20 feet away. There was something in her posture, a quiet strength, a dignity that came from years of proving herself in rooms where she wasn't expected to belong, that Misha noticed despite her disapproval. "The child does seem quite attached to her," Patricia observed. "Dangerously so," Misha agreed. "And what happens when she decides to move on? Poor Tyler will be devastated, and Matthew will have to start all over again." What Misha couldn't see was the steel in Asya's spine, the same strength that had carried her through nursing school while working 3 jobs, the same resolve that had helped her rise above every whispered comment about that girl from Liberty City who thinks she belongs here. "Someone should talk to your son," Carmen suggested. "Oh, I've tried," Misha sighed dramatically. "But you know how stubborn Matthew can be. Perhaps he needs to hear it from someone else." Just then, Tyler knocked over his tower of blocks and began to fuss. Without hesitation, Asya lifted him from the playpen and his tears immediately stopped. She bounced him gently, whispering something that made him giggle. "Mama Asya," Tyler said clearly, loud enough for half the party to hear. The conversational buzz faltered slightly. Several guests turned to stare, their expressions ranging from amused to appalled. Misha's smile was razor-sharp. "Well," she announced loudly enough for everyone to hear, "children say the most inappropriate things sometimes, don't they? It's so important to correct these little misunderstandings before they become habits." Asya's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but she maintained her composure with the grace her grandmother had taught her, chin up, shoulders back, dignity intact, no matter what anyone else chose to believe about her worth. She simply kissed Tyler's forehead and whispered, "Let's get you some juice, sweet boy." Matt, who had been discussing business with a client near the bar, noticed the shift in atmosphere immediately. He saw the way some guests were looking at Asya, with that particular mixture of curiosity and judgment that he recognized from his own corporate world. His protective instincts flared as he crossed the terrace. "Is everything all right?" he asked quietly. "Fine," Asya replied, but Matt could see the hurt in her eyes, not just from this moment, but from a lifetime of such moments. Yet she stood tall, holding Tyler with the same confident love she'd shown from her first day in their house. "Maybe we should put him to bed," Matt suggested, but Tyler shook his head vigorously. "No bed. Stay with Mama Asya," Tyler declared, wrapping his arms around Asya's neck. The silence on the terrace was deafening. Matt felt every eye turn toward them, saw the raised eyebrows and knowing looks being exchanged. But he also saw something else, the way Asya's hand gently rubbed Tyler's back, the way her voice remained soft and loving despite the hostile atmosphere, the way she protected his son's emotional security even while her own was under attack. His mother's expression was triumphant, as if Tyler had just proven her point beautifully. "Tyler," Misha said, approaching them with a patronizing smile, "you silly boy. This is Miss Asya. She's not your mama. Your mama is in heaven with the angels." Tyler looked confused, his lower lip beginning to tremble. "Mama Asya," he repeated uncertainly, looking between the adults for reassurance. "Children get so confused when boundaries aren't properly maintained," Misha continued, her voice carrying clearly across the terrace. "It's really not fair to them, is it?" Matt felt his jaw clench. "Mother, oh Matthew, I'm not criticizing. I'm simply observing that Tyler might benefit from clearer structure. Perhaps Miss Williams could eat her meals in the kitchen going forward." And maybe we should be more careful about the messages we're sending regarding family roles." Asya's face went pale, but she maintained her dignity. "Of course, Mrs. Anderson, whatever you think is best for Tyler." "Wonderful," Misha said, then turned to address the party guests. "Now, who would like to see Isabella's art studio? I've been thinking about converting it into a proper playroom for Tyler." As the guests began moving inside, chattering about the awkward scene they'd just witnessed, Matt caught Asya's arm gently. "Don't listen to her," he said quietly. "You belong at this table, at every table in this house." "Do I?" Asya asked, and Matt heard the genuine uncertainty in her voice. "Maybe your mother is right. Maybe I have been overstepping." Before Matt could respond, Tyler began crying. Not his usual fussy cry, but the heartbroken wail of a child who sensed something was wrong but didn't understand what. Asya immediately began soothing him, but Tyler was inconsolable. "It's okay, baby boy," she whispered, rocking him gently. "Everything's okay." But Tyler continued crying, and several guests turned to stare again. Matt saw his mother's satisfied expression and felt something cold and angry settle in his chest. "Take him upstairs," Matt said to Asya. "I'll handle this." Later that evening, after the last guest had departed and Tyler was finally asleep, Matt found Asya in the kitchen, cleaning up despite the fact that they had a full catering staff. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I need to stay busy," Asya replied without looking up. "It helps me think." "Think about what?" Asya was quiet for a long moment. "About whether your mother is right. About whether I've forgotten my place in this house." "Your place in this house is wherever you want it to be," Matt said firmly. "Is it?" Asya turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Because tonight felt like a very clear message about where I belong. In the kitchen, in the background, somewhere Tyler can't get confused about who I am to him." Matt stepped closer. "Tyler isn't confused, Asya. He knows exactly who you are to him. You're the woman who rocks him when he has nightmares. You're the woman who sings to him every morning and reads him stories every night. You're the woman who loves him unconditionally. If he wants to call you mama, then that's his choice, not my mother's." "But what if she's right?" Asya whispered. "What if I am overstepping? What if loving Tyler this much is selfish of me?" Matt found himself reaching up to touch her face, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped despite her efforts to hold it back. "Loving someone is never selfish, Asya. It's the most generous thing you can do." The kitchen was quiet, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of waves against the seawall. Matt realized his hand was still on Asya's face, realized how close they were standing, realized that something had shifted between them that couldn't be shifted back. "Matt," Asya said softly, and he heard something in her voice that made his heart race. Before either of them could say anything else, Tyler's voice came through the baby monitor. "Mama, Asya." Scared. The spell was broken, but gently. Asya stepped back, but not before Matt caught the look in her eyes, something warm and confused and hopeful all at once. "I should go to him," she said. "We both should," Matt replied. They found Tyler standing in his crib, tears streaming down his cheeks. He reached immediately for Asya, but his eyes sought Matt as well. "Bad dream," Tyler hiccuped. "It's okay, baby boy," Asya soothed, lifting him from the crib. "Mama, Asya's here. Daddy's here too." Matt watched as she settled into the rocking chair with Tyler, beginning to hum the lullaby that always calmed him. But tonight, Tyler seemed restless, as if he could sense the tension from earlier. "Sing with me?" Asya asked Matt quietly. "I don't know the words," Matt admitted. "Then just hum along. He likes your voice." So Matt found himself humming along to a lullaby he'd never heard before, watching his son relax in the arms of a woman who loved him completely, feeling something in his own heart that he wasn't ready to name. As Tyler's breathing evened out in sleep, Matt realized that his mother had been wrong about one thing. Asia wasn't going to break Tyler's heart by leaving. She was going to heal it by staying. And maybe, Matt thought, as he watched Asia's gentle hands smooth Tyler's hair, she was going to heal his heart too. Outside, Miami's glittering skyline stretched toward the stars, and in the Anderson mansion, love was growing in the quiet spaces between lullabies and bedtime stories, in the moments when two broken hearts recognized their perfect complement in each other. But storms were gathering too, in the form of a woman who believed love should follow rules and boundaries, who couldn't understand that sometimes the most powerful families are built not from blood and obligation, but from choice and devotion. The war for Tyler's heart and Matt's had officially begun. Chapter 4. Pressure and Promises. Some people plant seeds of doubt like a master gardener, so carefully and patiently that you don't realize your happiness is being uprooted until the beautiful garden of your life has turned to wasteland. The Miami Children's Hospital Charity Gala was the social event of the fall season, held at the Perez Art Museum with views of Biscayne Bay that could make even the most jaded billionaire pause in appreciation. Matt Anderson stood in his perfectly tailored Tom Ford tuxedo, champagne flute in hand, listening to Miami's elite discuss their latest philanthropic endeavors, while his mind wandered to home, where Asia was probably reading Tyler his bedtime story. "Matthew, darling," his mother's voice cut through his thoughts like a perfectly manicured blade. "I want you to meet someone very special." Matt turned to find Misha approaching with a stunning blonde woman who moved with the confident grace of someone accustomed to being the most beautiful person in any room. She was tall, elegant, and wearing what Matt's business sense estimated to be about $50,000 worth of designer dress and jewelry. "Matthew Anderson," Misha said, with the satisfaction of a chess master making a crucial move. "Meet Dana Retka. Dana's family owns half of Key Biscayne, and she just returned from finishing her master's degree at the Sorbonne." Dana extended a perfectly manicured hand, her smile revealing teeth so white they could have been carved from pearls. "Mr. Anderson, it's such a pleasure. I've heard so much about your work in the tech industry, and of course, about your beautiful son." "Nice to meet you," Matt replied politely, shaking her hand, and immediately noticing the calculating way her eyes assessed everything from his watch to his shoes to the cut of his tuxedo. "Dana has been living in Paris for the past 3 years, Misha continued, clearly launching into a well-rehearsed sales pitch. "She speaks 4 languages fluently, has a master's in early childhood development, and her family has been part of Miami society for generations." "How interesting," Matt said diplomatically, though his attention was caught by his phone buzzing with a text from Asia. "Tyler asking for you. Should I FaceTime so you can say goodnight?" Matt found himself smiling as he typed back, "Yes, give me 2 minutes." "Am I boring you?" Dana asked, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Not at all," Matt replied, pocketing his phone. "Excuse me for just a moment." He stepped onto the museum's terrace, where the Miami skyline twinkled like scattered diamonds across the water, and answered Asia's FaceTime call. Tyler's chubby face filled the screen, his hair still damp from his bath. "Daddy, you come home? Soon, buddy. Are you ready for bed?" "Mama Asia read story," Tyler announced, and Matt's heart clenched at the pure joy in his son's voice. "Goldilocks, bears say, someone sleep my bed." Asia's face appeared beside Tyler's, and Matt felt his pulse quicken the way it always did when he saw her. She was wearing a simple cotton dress, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and she looked more beautiful to him than any woman in the museum. "Say goodnight to Daddy," Asia prompted gently. "Night-night, Daddy. Love you big much." Tyler blew kisses at the phone, and Matt felt his chest tighten with love for this little boy who had saved his life simply by existing. "Love you too, Tyler. Sweet dreams." When Matt returned to the party, he found his mother and Dana waiting for him with expressions that suggested they'd been discussing him in his absence. "Everything all right at home?" Misha asked with false concern. "Perfect," Matt replied, and meant it. "It must be difficult," Dana said sympathetically. "Balancing work and single parenthood. I imagine you rely heavily on your staff." "I rely heavily on Asia," Matt corrected. "She's not staff, she's family." Something flickered in Dana's perfectly made-up eyes, but her smile never wavered. "Of course. The nanny. Your mother mentioned she's quite devoted to Tyler." "She loves him like her own son," Matt said, his tone warning them both to tread carefully. "How sweet," Dana replied, but there was something predatory in her expression. "And temporary, of course. I mean, she'll want her own family eventually, her own children." "We haven't discussed her long-term plans," Matt said stiffly. "Oh, but you should," Misha interjected smoothly. "It's important to have contingency plans when you're dealing with the help. People in her situation are always looking for better opportunities." Matt felt his jaw clench. "Her situation? Well, darling, let's be realistic. She's a lovely girl, I'm sure, but she's working as a nanny because it's the best opportunity available to her right now. When something better comes along, marriage, a higher-paying job, whatever, she'll move on. It's only natural." "What you need," Dana said, moving closer to Matt with the confidence of a woman accustomed to getting what she wanted, "is stability for Tyler. Someone who understands the responsibilities that come with raising a child in a family like yours." Matt looked at this beautiful, accomplished woman who checked every box his mother had ever drawn for his ideal partner and felt absolutely nothing. No attraction, no interest, no desire to know her better. She was everything Isabella hadn't been, calculated where Isabella was spontaneous, cold where Isabella was warm, ambitious where Isabella was content. "Tyler has stability," Matt said firmly. "He has love and consistency and someone who puts his needs above everything else." "From the help," Dana said with a patronizing smile. "How charming. But what happens when he starts school, when he's invited to birthday parties and play dates? Will the nanny be attending parent-teacher conferences? Will she be the one teaching him about his heritage, his family's place in this community?" "She'll be the one who taught him how to love and trust," Matt replied. "Everything else is secondary." Dana's mask slipped slightly, revealing something cold and sharp underneath. "Matthew, I think you're being naive. Children need proper guidance, appropriate role models. Tyler deserves better than—" "Than what?" Matt asked dangerously. "Than confusion about his place in the world," Misha interrupted smoothly. "Dana simply means that Tyler needs clarity about family structure. He needs to understand the difference between hired help and actual family." Matt felt something snap inside him. Asha is actual family. She's more family to Tyler than anyone else in his life. "More than you?" Dana asked with fake sweetness. "Different from me," Matt clarified, "but equally important." He was about to excuse himself when Dr. Rodriguez, the hospital's chief of pediatrics, approached their group with a concerned expression. "Mrs. Anderson, are you all right? You look pale." Matt turned to see his mother swaying slightly, one hand pressed to her chest, her face indeed several shades lighter than usual. "I'm fine," Misha said weakly. "Just a little dizzy spell." "Mother!" Matt was immediately concerned, his anger forgotten. "What's wrong?" "It's nothing, darling. Really, just some tightness in my chest. It's been happening occasionally." Dr. Rodriguez frowned. "Have you seen a cardiologist? Chest tightness in women your age shouldn't be ignored." "I have an appointment next week," Misha said, accepting the chair Dana quickly provided. "I'm sure it's nothing serious." But Matt was studying his mother's face, noting the genuine fear that flickered in her eyes for just a moment before she regained control. "Are you having chest pain right now?" he asked. "A little," Misha admitted reluctantly. "But really, Matthew, I don't want to make a scene." "We're leaving," Matt said immediately. "Dana, it was lovely meeting you, but I'll drive you to the hospital," Dana offered quickly. "My car is right outside." And somehow, in the space of 15 minutes, Matt found himself in Dana's BMW, rushing his mother to Mount Sinai Medical Center, while Dana demonstrated remarkable competence in a crisis, calling ahead to the emergency room and providing calm, steady support. At the hospital, while they waited for test results, Misha sat in the ER bed looking smaller and more fragile than Matt had ever seen her. "I didn't want to worry you," she said quietly, "but I've been having episodes for a few weeks now. The cardiologist thinks it might be my heart." "Why didn't you tell me?" Matt asked, guilt washing over him. "Because you have so much on your plate already. Tyler, your business, managing the household." She trailed off meaningfully. Dana, who had been quietly supportive all evening, spoke up. "Mrs. Anderson, you don't need to carry these burdens alone. That's what family is for." What Matt didn't see was what happened when he stepped out to call his office. Dana's demeanor changed completely as she turned to face Misha with cold calculation. "This heart condition of yours," Dana said quietly, "how serious is it really?" Misha looked startled. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you actually dying, or is this just convenient timing?" Dana's voice was ice cold. "Because if you're manipulating Matthew's grief to get what you want, we should coordinate our efforts." "I don't know what you're talking about," Misha replied, but Dana saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes. "Of course you do. You want Matthew married to someone appropriate, and I want Matthew's money and status. This little health scare is perfect leverage." Dana leaned closer. "Work with me, and we both get what we want. Fight me, and I'll make sure Tyler grows up thinking his grandmother is a racist manipulator who drove away the only mother figure he's ever known." When Matt returned, both women were wearing masks of concern and mutual support, neither revealing the devil's bargain they'd just struck. Later, during what became Matt's proposal night, Dana demonstrated exactly why she was so dangerous. She orchestrated the evening perfectly, appearing at just the right moments to be helpful, saying exactly the right things to reinforce Misha's manipulation while seeming to genuinely care about Tyler's well-being. "Matthew," she said, after he'd proposed, holding his hand as they watched Tyler sleep, "I want you to know that I understand how important Asya has been to Tyler. I won't try to replace that relationship overnight. I want to work with her to make this transition as smooth as possible for him." The words sounded caring, reasonable, exactly what Matt needed to hear. He had no way of knowing that hours earlier, Dana had cornered Asya in the laundry room. "Listen carefully," Dana had whispered, her manicured fingers gripping Asya's arm hard enough to leave bruises. "I don't care how much that little brat loves you, or how much Matthew thinks he needs you. Once I'm married into this family, you're gone. But if you make any trouble for me before the wedding, if you say or do anything to interfere with my plans, I'll make sure everyone knows that the help has been having inappropriate feelings for her employer." Asya had stared at her, seeing the cold calculation behind Dana's beautiful facade. Matt would never believe that. Wouldn't he? A lonely widower, a pretty young woman living in his house, caring for his child. People love to believe the worst, especially about women like you who don't know their place. Dana's smile was razor sharp. "So you'll smile, you'll be helpful during the transition, and you'll disappear quietly after the honeymoon, or I'll destroy your reputation so completely that you'll never work with children again." The threat hung between them like poison, and Asya realized she was trapped by a master manipulator who had fooled everyone, including the man she was falling in love with. Misha smiled gratefully at Dana, and Matt noticed the look that passed between them, a look of understanding and mutual appreciation. "Dana has been so helpful tonight," Misha said. "So calm and capable. It reminds me of Isabella, actually, the way she could take charge in a crisis." Matt felt something twist in his chest. Dana was nothing like Isabella. Isabella would have been asking about every patient they passed, would have brought flowers for the nurses, would have turned even an ER visit into an opportunity to spread joy. But Dana had been helpful, competent, reliable. "The test results should be back soon," Dana said, checking her watch. "I can stay as long as you need me." "That's very kind," Matt replied, though he found himself wishing Asya were there instead. Asya, who would have brought comfort food and terrible jokes, and would have somehow made even this sterile ER feel warm. When Dr. Rodriguez finally appeared with the test results, his expression was carefully neutral. "Mrs. Anderson, I'm not seeing any immediate signs of heart attack, but there are some irregularities in your EKG that concern me. I want to schedule you for a full cardiac workup as soon as possible." Misha's face went white. "Irregularities?" "It could be nothing serious, Doctor," Rodriguez said carefully. "But given your symptoms and family history, we need to be thorough." On the drive home, Misha was uncharacteristically quiet. When they finally pulled into the Anderson driveway, she turned to Matt with tears in her eyes. "Matthew, I need to ask you something, and I need you to really listen." "Of course. If something happens to me, if these tests show something serious, I need to know that Tyler will be okay, that he'll have the right influences in his life." "Mother, please let me finish. Tyler needs stability, guidance from people who understand his world. He needs proper role models, not just temporary arrangements." Matt felt the weight of guilt and duty pressing down on him like a lead blanket. His mother might be dying. His son might lose the only grandmother he had. "What are you asking me to do?" Misha reached over and took his hand. "I'm asking you to think about Tyler's future. Really think about it. About what kind of woman you want helping to raise him. About what kind of family structure will serve him best." As if on cue, Dana appeared at Matt's car window, having retrieved Misha's purse from her BMW. "Here you go, Mrs. Anderson, and I've already called my family's cardiologist. He's one of the best in the country, and he can see you tomorrow if you'd like." "You're an angel," Misha said, squeezing Dana's hand. Later that night, after he'd helped his mother to her guest room and Dana had finally left, Matt stood in Tyler's nursery doorway, watching Asya sleep in the chair beside Tyler's crib. She'd clearly fallen asleep reading, a book of fairy tales still open in her lap. Tyler was sleeping peacefully, one little hand dangling through the crib slats as if reaching for Asya even in sleep. This was his family, Matt realized. This woman who loved his son unconditionally, who brought laughter and music into their home, who made every day brighter simply by being in it. But his mother might be dying, and maybe, just maybe, she was right about some things. Maybe Tyler did need more structure, more guidance about his place in Miami society. Maybe Asya, for all her love and devotion, couldn't give Tyler everything he would need as he grew up. Matt looked at the sleeping woman who had saved his son from grief, who had saved him from drowning in his own sorrow, and felt his heart breaking with the possibility that love might not be enough. Outside, Miami slept under a blanket of stars, unaware that in one mansion in Coral Gables, a man was beginning to question everything he thought he knew about family, duty, and love. Chapter 5. A Dying Wish. Guilt is a master manipulator, wearing the face of love while it slowly strangles the heart, convincing us that sacrifice is virtue and that breaking our own happiness is somehow noble. The cardiac specialist's office in downtown Miami felt like a tomb, all white walls and hushed voices that seemed to whisper of mortality. Matt sat beside his mother's hospital bed, holding her surprisingly fragile hand, while Dr. Martinez reviewed the test results with the grim expression of a man delivering a death sentence. "I'm afraid the news isn't good, Mrs. Anderson," Dr. Martinez said, his voice carefully professional. "The blockages are significant, and your heart muscle is showing signs of strain. Without immediate intervention, you're looking at a serious cardiac event within the next few months." Misha's grip on Matt's hand tightened, and he saw genuine fear in her eyes for the second time in a week. "What kind of intervention?" "Open heart surgery, a triple bypass at minimum. It's a serious procedure, especially for someone your age, but it's your best chance for long-term survival." Matt felt the room spin slightly. "What are the risks?" Dr. Martinez hesitated. "There's always risk with surgery this extensive, but without it, Mrs. Anderson has perhaps 6 months. With it, she could live for many more years." After the doctor left them alone, Misha turned to Matt with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, Matthew, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to burden you with this." "You're not a burden," Matt said fiercely, though inside he felt like a scared little boy who might lose his mother. Despite their differences, despite her manipulations and controlling nature, she was still the woman who had raised him, who had stood by him through Isabella's death, who loved Tyler with fierce devotion. "I am, though," Misha continued. "I can see it in your eyes. You're already planning how to reorganize your life around my illness, how to manage my care while still being the father Tyler needs." She was right, and they both knew it. Matt was already calculating business trips he'd need to cancel, meetings he'd have to reschedule, the delicate balance of managing his empire while caring for a sick mother and a toddler. "We'll figure it out," he said. "Matthew," Misha said, her voice taking on the tone he remembered from his childhood when she'd wanted to discuss something important. "I need to ask something of you, something difficult. Anything. I need to see you settled before I have this surgery. I need to know that Tyler will have stability, that you'll have support, that our family will continue even if—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Matt felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. "Mother, you're going to be fine. The surgery might kill me," Misha said bluntly. "Dr. Martinez was being optimistic for our benefit, but I saw his face. I know the real odds." She was silent for a long moment, staring out the window at the Miami skyline. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I've been thinking about Dana. Mother, please, just listen. She's perfect for you, Matthew. She understands our world. She has the education and breeding to help guide Tyler, and she genuinely cares about our family. I saw how she handled my crisis at the gala. She was remarkable." Matt thought about Dana's competence that night, her quick thinking and steady presence. She had been remarkable. She'd also felt like a stranger, someone playing the role of concerned family friend, rather than actually caring about his mother's well-being. "She's a lovely woman," Matt said carefully, "but I'm not in love with her." "Love can grow," Misha replied. "Your father and I had an arranged marriage, essentially. Our families decided we were suitable for each other, and we learned to love each other over time. We had 40 wonderful years together. That was different. That was your choice." "And this is your choice too," Misha said, struggling to sit up in the hospital bed. "Matthew, I'm asking you to consider making a choice not just for yourself, but for Tyler, for our family legacy." Matt felt the familiar weight of duty pressing down on him, the same pressure he'd felt his entire life to live up to the Anderson name, to make choices based not on his heart, but on what was expected of him. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Misha's eyes filled with tears again. "I'm asking you to marry Dana, before my surgery. I know it sounds rushed, but if something happens to me, I need to know that Tyler will have a proper mother figure, that you'll have a partner who understands the responsibilities that come with our family's position." "Mother, that's crazy. I can't just marry someone because you think it's practical." "Why not?" Misha's voice grew stronger, more insistent. "You married Isabella for love, and look how that ended. She left you with a broken heart and a motherless child. At least with Dana, you'd be building something stable, something that could last." Matt flinched as if she'd slapped him. "Isabella didn't choose to die." "No, but she chose to have a baby despite the risks the doctors warned her about. She chose to put her desire for motherhood above Tyler's need for a living mother." Misha's voice was harsh now, revealing years of resentment she'd kept hidden. "I'm asking you to choose differently, to choose stability over passion, security over romance." The room fell silent, except for the beeping of monitors and the distant sounds of Miami traffic. Matt stared at his mother, seeing not the manipulative society matron he often butted heads with, but a frightened woman facing her own mortality. "This is really what you want?" he asked finally. "It's my dying wish," Misha said simply. "Please, Matthew, give me this piece before I go into surgery." That night, Matt drove home through Miami's neon-lit streets, feeling like he was drowning. The weight of his mother's request sat on his chest like a stone, making it difficult to breathe. When he pulled into his driveway, he could see warm light spilling from Tyler's nursery window, could hear Asia's voice floating on the evening breeze as she sang their son to sleep. Their son. When had he started thinking of Tyler as belonging to both of them? Matt found Asia in the kitchen, preparing Tyler's bottles for the next day. She looked up when he entered, and her face immediately creased with concern. "How's your mother?" she asked. "Not good," Matt replied, accepting the cup of coffee she automatically handed him. "She needs surgery, soon." "Oh, Matt, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do?" Matt looked at this woman who always thought of others first, who had dropped everything to care for his son, who had brought love and laughter back into his broken family. How could he tell her that his mother's dying wish was for him to marry someone else? How could he explain that duty and guilt were about to destroy the best thing that had happened to him since Isabella's death? "Actually, there is something," he said, his voice sounding strange even to his own ears. "I need to ask you about your long-term plans." Astia's hands stilled on the bottles. "My long-term plans. Your future, your goals. Whether you plan to stay with Tyler permanently or if this is temporary while you figure out what you really want to do." Something flickered in Asia's eyes, something that looked like hurt. "Why are you asking me this?" "Because Tyler is going to need stability. If something happens to her, he's going to need consistency in his life. And you think I can't provide that?" "I think you deserve your own life," Matt said, hating himself even as he spoke the words. "Your own family, your own children. I can't ask you to sacrifice that for Tyler." Asia was quiet for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. "What aren't you telling me, Matt?" The question hung between them like a bridge he was afraid to cross. How could he explain that he was falling in love with her? How could he tell her that marrying Dana felt like betraying everything they'd built together? How could he admit that his mother's manipulations were working because he was too weak to fight the guilt and duty that had been drummed into him his entire life? "My mother thinks Tyler needs more structure, more appropriate guidance." "Appropriate," Asia repeated, and Matt heard the hurt she was trying to hide. "I see." "It's not about you," Matt said desperately. "It's about me, about my family's expectations, about what's best for Tyler in the long run." "And what's best for Tyler?" Matt met her eyes, and in them he saw everything he was about to lose: love, warmth, genuine care, the kind of family he'd dreamed of having. A stable two-parent home, he said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Someone who understands his world. Someone who can guide him through the complexities of growing up in a family like ours. Asgia nodded slowly, and Matt saw her carefully rebuilding the walls around her heart, brick by brick. "I understand," she said quietly. "When do you need me to start looking for another position?" "I don't want you to leave," Matt said, the words torn from his chest. "God, Asgia, that's the last thing I want." "Then what do you want?" "You," he thought. "I want you and Tyler and the life we've been building together. I want to wake up to your laughter and fall asleep to your voice reading bedtime stories. I want to make this house our home and never have to worry about my mother's approval or society's expectations ever again." "I want to do what's right for everyone," he said instead. "Everyone except us," Asya whispered, and Matt heard his heart break in her voice. 2 weeks later, Matt stood in the garden of his Coral Gables mansion, watching Dana admire Isabella's roses while his mother sat in a wheelchair nearby, beaming with satisfaction despite her upcoming surgery. Tyler was napping, unaware that his world was about to change forever. "The garden is lovely," Dana said, her manicured fingers touching the petals of a white rose that Isabella had planted the year she died. "Though I think it could use some updating, something more structured, more formal." Matt thought about how Asya and Tyler played in this garden every afternoon, how Tyler loved the wild profusion of colors and scents, how Isabella had specifically designed it to feel magical and alive. "I like it the way it is," he said. "Of course," Dana replied smoothly. "We can discuss changes later." Later, after they were married, after his mother had her surgery and recovered enough to see her manipulations bear fruit. "Matthew," Misha called from her wheelchair, "don't you have something to ask Dana?" Matt's hand closed around the ring box in his pocket, a 5-carat diamond that had cost more than most people's houses but felt cold and heavy in his palm. He thought about the simple silver cross Asya wore every day, about how much more beautiful she looked in her department store dresses than Dana looked in her designer gowns. "Dana," he said, his voice sounding like it was coming from underwater, "would you marry me?" Dana's squeal of delight and his mother's tears of joy seemed to come from very far away. As he slipped the ring onto Dana's finger, Matt looked up at Tyler's nursery window and saw Asya standing there, watching. Even from a distance, he could see her tears. That night, after Dana had finally gone home and his mother was settled in her guest room, Matt found Asya packing her belongings in her suite. "What are you doing?" he asked, though he already knew. "I think it would be best if I found somewhere else to live," Asya said without looking at him. "Dana will want to establish her own routines with Tyler, and it might be confusing for him to have me around during the transition." "Tyler needs you," Matt said desperately. "Tyler needs stability," Asya replied, echoing his own words back to him, "and apparently I'm not stable enough." She turned to face him, and Matt saw that she'd been crying. "I love Tyler like my own child, Matt. I always will. But I can't stay here and watch another woman raise the little boy I've loved since he was 3 months old. I can't pretend to be the help when I've been his mama for over a year. Asya, please." "I'll stay until after your mother's surgery," she said firmly. "Tyler doesn't need any more disruption while the family is in crisis, but after that, I have to go." Matt wanted to beg her to stay, wanted to tell her that he loved her, wanted to call off the engagement and build the life he really wanted. Instead, he nodded and walked away, carrying the weight of his cowardice like a stone in his chest. Behind him, he heard Asya begin to cry, deep, broken sobs that sounded like a heart being torn in half. Tyler's voice came through the baby monitor. "Mama Asya? Why sad?" And Matt realized that he'd just broken 3 hearts to satisfy one dying woman's wish. Outside, Miami's stars shone down on a mansion where love had been sacrificed on the altar of duty, where a family had been destroyed by the very woman who claimed to want to save it. Chapter 6. True Colors Revealed. Evil rarely announces itself with horns and pitchforks. More often it arrives wearing pearls and perfume, smiling sweetly while it slowly poisons everything beautiful in its path. Dana Retka moved into the Anderson mansion 3 days after Misha's successful surgery, bringing 14 pieces of Louis Vuitton luggage and an attitude that transformed the peaceful household into a battlefield. She swept through the marble halls like a conquering queen, immediately rearranging furniture and establishing new rules that she claimed were for Tyler's own good. Asya watched the transformation from her position as an unwelcome observer, her heart breaking as the warm home she'd helped create was systematically dismantled. Dana spoke to her with cold politeness reserved for servants, despite Matt's insistence that Asya was family. "Miss Williams," Dana announced on her first morning, appearing in the kitchen where Asya was preparing Tyler's breakfast. "I'll be taking over Tyler's care going forward." Tyler looked up with confusion from his high chair, banana pieces stuck to his chubby fingers. "Mama Asya make eggs," he said, as if explaining something obvious. Dana's smile was sharp as a knife. "Actually, Tyler, I'll be making your breakfast from now on. Miss Williams needs to focus on other duties." "But I like Mama Asya eggs," Tyler protested, his lower lip trembling. "You'll like my eggs better," Dana said with false cheer. "And we need to discuss this Mama Asya business. Miss Williams isn't your mama, sweetie. I'm going to be your new mama soon." Tyler's eyes filled with tears. "No! Want Mama Asya!" "Tyler!" Dana's voice carried a warning that made Asya's protective instincts flare. "Big boys don't cry over silly things. Miss Williams is just the nanny. She's not family." Asya felt each word like a physical blow, but she forced herself to remain calm for Tyler's sake. "It's okay, sweet boy. Dana is right. She's going to take very good care of you." But Tyler wasn't easily comforted. He reached his sticky hands toward Asya, crying harder. "Up, Mama Asya, up!" Dana physically stepped between them, preventing Asya from comforting the crying toddler. "Tyler, stop this nonsense immediately. Miss Williams, perhaps you could focus on cleaning the upstairs bathrooms while I handle Tyler's breakfast." The dismissal was clear and humiliating. Asya looked at Tyler's tear-streaked face, her heart breaking as she was forced to abandon him during his distress. "Of course, Miss Retka," Asya replied with quiet dignity, though inside she was screaming. As she left the kitchen, she could hear Tyler's cries intensifying and Dana's voice growing sharper. "Stop that crying right now, Tyler. You're being ridiculous." By the time Matt returned from his business trip 2 days later, Dana had established a new household hierarchy with herself at the top and Asya firmly relegated to staff status. She'd moved Asya's meals to the kitchen, forbidden her from eating with the family, and created a long list of cleaning duties that kept Asya busy during Tyler's waking hours. "How did everything go?" Matt asked Dana over dinner, Tyler fussing in his high chair beside them. "Wonderfully," Dana replied, cutting her steak with precise movements. "Tyler and I are getting to know each other beautifully, aren't we, sweetie?" Tyler turned his head away from her, reaching toward the kitchen where he could see Asya preparing bottles. "Want Mama Asya?" he whimpered. "Tyler's been a bit difficult," Dana said with a long-suffering sigh. "I think the nanny has spoiled him terribly. He expects constant attention and coddling." Matt frowned. "Tyler's never been difficult before. Children test boundaries when there are changes," Dana explained smoothly. "It's perfectly normal. He just needs consistent discipline." What Matt didn't see was how Dana's consistent discipline played out when he wasn't there. The next morning, while Matt was in his study taking conference calls, Dana orchestrated her cruelest performance yet, Miss Williams, she called sweetly. Tyler spilled his juice. Could you clean it up? Asya looked at the floor around Tyler's high chair, which was completely clean. I'm sorry, Miss Retke, but I don't see any spill. Dana smiled and deliberately knocked over Tyler's sippy cup, sending apple juice cascading across the Italian marble floor. There, now there's a spill. Tyler watched with wide, confused eyes as Dana's mask of sweetness disappeared completely. Clean it up, Dana ordered. On your hands and knees, I want to make sure you get every drop. Asya stared at this woman, who was supposed to love Tyler, who was going to be his stepmother, and saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. Of course, Asya said quietly, getting down on her hands and knees with paper towels. Tyler, watch carefully, Dana said to the confused toddler. This is Miss Williams's job. She cleans up messes. That's what the help does. Tyler began to cry, not understanding why his beloved Mama Asya was being treated this way. He tried to climb down from his high chair to help her, but Dana held him firmly in place. No, Tyler, stay in your chair. Miss Williams can handle her own work. As Asya scrubbed the floor, Dana deliberately stepped on her fingers with her designer heels. The pain was sharp and immediate, but Asya didn't make a sound. She wouldn't give this woman the satisfaction. Mama, Asya hurt, Tyler cried, struggling against Dana's grip. Miss Williams is fine, Dana said firmly, and you need to stop calling her that inappropriate name. This became Dana's pattern over the following weeks. Whenever Matt was away, Dana would find new ways to humiliate Asya while asserting her dominance over Tyler. She would spill food deliberately and make Asya clean it up while Tyler watched. She would lock Asya out of the kitchen during meal times, forcing Tyler to go hungry until he stopped asking for Mama Asya and accepted food from Dana instead. She would hide Tyler's favorite toys and tell him that Asya had lost them, then find them later, positioning herself as the hero. Most cruelly, she began timing Asya's interactions with Tyler, appearing whenever they seemed to be bonding and separating them with manufactured errands or cleaning tasks. Miss Williams, the guest bathroom needs scrubbing, she would announce just as Asya and Tyler were reading together. Miss Williams, I need you to reorganize the linen closet immediately, she would say when she found them building blocks in the playroom. Tyler, at 15 months old, couldn't understand what was happening, but he could feel the tension and unhappiness that now permeated the house. He became clingy and whiny, crying whenever Asya was pulled away from him, refusing to eat meals that Dana prepared, and having nightmares that left him screaming for Mama Asya in the middle of the night. The psychological warfare escalated when Dana discovered Tyler's photo album, the one Asya had lovingly created to document every milestone. One afternoon, while Tyler napped and Matt was at the office, Dana systematically destroyed months of precious memories. These pictures are inappropriate, Dana announced, tearing pages from the album while Asya watched in horror. Tyler doesn't need constant documentation of every mundane moment. It's obsessive. She threw away photos of Tyler's first steps, his first birthday party, quiet moments of him and Asya reading together. Each destroyed image felt like a knife to Asya's heart. Please, Asya whispered. Those are memories. Tyler will want them someday. Tyler will want appropriate memories, Dana replied coldly, not a shrine to his infatuation with the help. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Matt was in Fort Lauderdale meeting with investors, and Misha was at her physical therapy appointment. Dana had been particularly vicious all morning, creating mess after mess for Asya to clean, while Tyler watched helplessly from his playpen. Miss Williams, Dana announced around noon, pointing to the full pot of perfectly good coffee on the counter. This coffee is terrible. I want fresh coffee made with real cream, not this artificial nonsense. There's fresh cream in the refrigerator, Asya said politely, opening the fridge to show Dana the unopened container. Dana walked over, grabbed the cream, and poured it down the sink with a cold smile. Not anymore. That was expired anyway. I want you to walk to that specialty market in Coconut Grove and get proper heavy cream for my coffee, the French kind they carry. Asya stared at her. Coconut Grove was miles away, and the thunderstorm outside was getting worse. Miss Retke, there's a severe weather warning. Perhaps I could make coffee with the regular cream from the local store. I specifically want the French heavy cream from that particular market, Dana insisted. Surely a little rain won't hurt someone used to rougher neighborhoods. The racist implication hung in the air like poison. Tyler, who had been watching this exchange, began to whimper as he sensed the tension. Of course, Asya said quietly. I'll leave right away. As Asya gathered her purse and umbrella, Tyler began crying in earnest. Mama, Asya, stay. No, go rain. Tyler, stop that noise immediately, Dana snapped. Miss Williams has work to do. But Tyler was inconsolable, reaching through the playpen bars toward Asya with desperate hands. No leave, Mama, Asya. Scared. For a moment, Asya hesitated. Every fiber of her being screamed at her not to leave this precious little boy with this cruel woman. But she had no choice. Dana held all the power now. I'll be back soon, sweet boy, she whispered, kissing his forehead quickly before Dana could stop her. As she stepped into the driving rain, Asya could hear Tyler's heartbroken sobs echoing from the mansion behind her. The storm seemed to mirror the chaos in her heart as she walked through flooded streets, knowing that with each step away from that house, she was leaving a piece of her soul behind with a little boy who needed her more than ever. 3 hours later, when she returned soaked and shivering with the expensive French cream Dana had demanded, she found Tyler exhausted from crying, his face red and swollen from tears. Dana was calmly reading a magazine, having ignored the child's distress completely. Finally, Dana said without looking up, though I'm not sure I want coffee anymore. Perhaps you could just put that cream away and start dinner preparations. It was then that Asya realized Dana's cruelty knew no bounds. The coffee had never been the point. The rain, the humiliation, Tyler's terror at being left with her, it had all been carefully orchestrated to break both of them down. But as Tyler reached for her with trembling arms, whispering, Mama, Asya back, Asya found her strength renewed. She would endure whatever Dana dished out because Tyler needed her to be strong. That night, after Tyler was finally asleep, Asya sat in her room, looking at the remnants of Tyler's destroyed photo album. Among the torn pages, she found one photo that had survived, Tyler's first day with his elephant, the day he'd finally stopped crying and started trusting again. She held that photo close to her heart and made a silent promise. No matter what Dana did to her, she would protect Tyler's innocence and his capacity to love, even if it meant sacrificing her own happiness in the process. Outside, Miami's storm continued to rage, matching the tempest inside the Anderson mansion, where love was under siege, but not yet defeated. In her heart, Asya knew that this nightmare couldn't last forever. Matt would see the truth eventually. She just prayed it would be before Dana destroyed the beautiful, trusting little boy who called her Mama. Chapter 7. The Storm Intensifies. Sometimes the universe provides the perfect storm to reveal someone's true nature, and Miami's October hurricane season was about to expose the darkness that lived behind designer smiles and charity galas. The rain hammered Miami with the fury of an angry god, turning the usually pristine streets of Coral Gables into rivers of rushing water. Asya sat on the bus, soaked to the bone despite her umbrella, watching the city blur past through rain-streaked windows while her heart ached for Tyler. The Ethiopian coffee sat cooling in her lap, coffee that Dana probably never intended to drink, coffee that had been nothing more than an excuse to send Asya away in dangerous weather. Back at the Anderson mansion, Dana smiled with satisfaction as she watched Tyler cry himself into exhaustion in his playpen. The child had sobbed for nearly an hour after Asya left, and Dana had made no attempt to comfort him. Instead, she'd sat in her designer chair, filing her nails and occasionally telling Tyler to stop that noise. "You need to learn, Tyler," she said to the hiccuping toddler. "Miss Williams isn't your mama. She's just the help, and the help can be replaced." When Tyler finally fell asleep from emotional exhaustion, Dana began phase 2 of her plan. She went to Tyler's room and systematically destroyed every trace of Asya's loving care. The photo album Asya had created documenting Tyler's milestones went into the trash. The handmade mobile she'd crafted for his crib was torn down and thrown away. The children's books she'd carefully selected, many with personal inscriptions, were boxed up for donation. Most cruelly of all, Dana found Tyler's favorite stuffed elephant, a soft grey toy that Asya had given him for his first birthday, the one he couldn't sleep without, and hid it in the garage storage room. When Tyler woke from his nap and immediately began searching for his elephant, Dana watched with cold satisfaction. "Elephant gone, sweetheart," she told him with false sympathy. "Miss Williams must have lost it. She's so careless with your things." Tyler's fresh tears were like music to Dana's ears. By the time Asya returned, drenched and shivering, carrying the coffee that had cost her 3 hours in hurricane weather, Tyler was inconsolable. He'd been crying intermittently for hours, confused and frightened by the disappearance of his beloved toy and the woman who always made everything better. "Finally," Dana said, not even looking up from her magazine. "Tyler has been impossible all afternoon. He keeps crying for that ridiculous elephant toy. I suppose you'll have to find it." Asya immediately went to Tyler, whose face lit up through his tears when he saw her. "Mama Asya, you back?" "I'm here, sweet boy," Asya soothed, lifting him from his playpen. "What's wrong? Where's your elephant?" "Gone!" Tyler wailed. "Elephant gone!" Asya searched Tyler's room, the playroom, every corner of the house, but the elephant was nowhere to be found. She noticed immediately that Tyler's photo album was missing, along with several of his favorite books and the mobile she'd made him. "Miss Retke," Asya said carefully, "Tyler's elephant is missing, along with some other items. Do you know what happened to them?" Dana looked up from her magazine with perfectly innocent eyes. "Oh, I did some cleaning while you were gone. I threw away a lot of old dirty toys. That elephant was getting quite shabby." Asya felt her heart stop. "You threw away his elephant? He can't sleep without it." "He'll learn to sleep without it," Dana said dismissively. "Children need to outgrow their attachments to childish things." That night was a nightmare. Tyler cried for hours, searching his crib for the elephant that had been his comfort since infancy. Asya sat beside his crib, singing every lullaby she knew, but nothing could replace the security that stuffed elephant had provided. "Want elephant," Tyler sobbed over and over. "Where elephant?" "I don't know, baby boy," Asya whispered, tears streaming down her own face. "But Mama Asya is here. I'm not going anywhere." But even as she made that promise, Asya wondered how much longer she could keep it. Dana's cruelty was escalating daily, and Tyler was caught in the middle, suffering for the war being waged over his small head. The next morning brought fresh horrors. Dana had prepared Tyler's breakfast, burned toast and cold eggs that the toddler refused to eat. "Tyler's being picky," Dana announced when Matt came down for coffee. "I think the nanny has been spoiling him with too much attention to his preferences." Matt, rushing to get to an important client meeting, barely glanced at his son's untouched plate. "Maybe just give him some fruit for now. I'll be back by dinner." After Matt left, Dana's mask fell away completely. She grabbed Tyler roughly from his high chair, her fingers leaving marks on his chubby arms. "You're going to eat what I give you," she hissed, "or you're going to go hungry." Asya stepped forward instinctively. "Miss Retke, please, he's just a baby. Stay out of this," Dana snapped. "You're not his mother, despite what you've convinced yourself." She dragged Tyler to the living room and set him down hard in the corner. "You'll sit here until you learn some manners." Tyler, frightened and confused, immediately began crying and trying to get up, but every time he moved, Dana pushed him back down. "Sit still." Asya watched in horror as Dana essentially tortured the toddler with forced isolation, ignoring his increasingly desperate cries. When Tyler wet himself from fear and distress, Dana's response was to leave him sitting in soiled clothes. "Maybe next time you'll behave properly," she told the sobbing child. Only when Dana went upstairs to shower was Asya able to rescue Tyler, quickly changing his clothes and holding him close while he shook with trauma. "It's okay, sweet boy," she whispered. "Mama Asya's got you." But Tyler was changing. The happy, confident toddler was becoming withdrawn and fearful. He stopped playing with his toys, stopped babbling his cheerful nonsense, and began having frequent accidents as his nervous system responded to the constant stress. Worst of all, he began to fear separation from Asya, clinging to her desperately whenever Dana entered a room. "Tyler's becoming neurotic," Dana complained to Matt that evening. "He's developed some kind of anxiety disorder. I think the nanny has made him too dependent on her." "He seems fine when I'm here," Matt said, though he had noticed Tyler seemed more subdued lately. "Because you spoil him too," Dana replied. "Children need firm boundaries, Matthew." Structure. They don't need to be coddled every time they cry. What Matt didn't see was Dana's systematic campaign of psychological warfare against a toddler. He didn't see her hiding Tyler's toys and blaming Asya for their disappearance. He didn't see her deliberately frightening Tyler with stories about what happened to little boys who didn't obey. He didn't see her pinching Tyler when he called for Mama Asya, leaving small bruises that she explained away as playground accidents. And he definitely didn't see the afternoon when Dana's cruelty reached its peak. Asya had been folding laundry in the utility room when she heard Tyler screaming, not his usual fussy cry, but screams of genuine terror. She ran to the living room to find Tyler backed into a corner while Dana advanced on him with a wooden spoon raised threateningly. "I told you to stop asking for that elephant," Dana was saying, her voice deadly quiet. "Little boys who don't listen get punished." "Stop!" Asya cried, throwing herself between Dana and Tyler. "He's just a baby." "He's a spoiled brat," Dana snapped, "and someone needs to teach him proper behavior since you've failed completely." Tyler clung to Asya's legs, sobbing hysterically. "Mama Asya, scared, lady scary." Dana's eyes blazed with fury. "Don't you dare call her that in front of me." She raised her hand to strike Tyler, but Asya caught her wrist. "Don't you dare touch him," Asya said, her voice steel. "Not ever." For a moment they stared at each other, and Asya saw the true face of evil, cold, calculating, and completely without empathy for a frightened child. "You're forgetting your place," Dana said softly. "I'm going to be Tyler's mother. You're just the help, and the help can be fired." "Then fire me," Asya replied, "but I will not stand by and watch you terrorize this child." Dana smiled, and it was the most chilling expression Asya had ever seen. "Oh, I'm not going to fire you. Not yet. First, I'm going to make sure Tyler understands exactly who's in charge here." That night, Asya found Tyler's elephant in the garage, exactly where Dana had hidden it. She snuck it back into Tyler's room, and for the first time in days, he fell asleep, peacefully. But Asya knew the war was escalating. Dana's cruelty was becoming more brazen, more dangerous, and Tyler, innocent Tyler, was paying the price for the battle being fought over his future. As Miami's storm season raged outside, matching the tempest inside the Anderson mansion, Asya held the sleeping child and made a silent vow. No matter what it cost her, she would protect Tyler from the monster who was about to become his stepmother, even if it meant sacrificing herself in the process. Chapter 8. Breaking Point. Truth has a way of surfacing like oil on water. No matter how hard someone tries to bury it, eventually it rises to the top, impossible to ignore and impossible to explain away. Matt Anderson's jet descended through Miami's golden afternoon sky 2 days ahead of schedule. Something had been gnawing at him during the Chicago meetings, fragments that didn't fit. Tyler's subdued voice during their FaceTime calls, Asia's forced smiles in Dana's photos, the way his son asked about his missing elephant with quiet desperation, then quickly changed the subject when Dana appeared on screen. Now, stepping through his mansion's front door, Matt felt the house itself recoil around him. The air was wrong, thick with unspoken fear and something that felt like mourning. Following soft crying sounds, he found Tyler alone in his high chair, tears tracking down hollow cheeks. The child sat with the defeated stillness of someone much older, a bowl of cold soup untouched before him. When Tyler saw his father, his whole body flinched, then reached out with desperate hunger. "Daddy!" The word was half sob, half prayer. Matt lifted his son, shocked by how light Tyler felt, how he trembled like a bird against his chest. This wasn't the confident toddler he'd left behind. This was a child who'd learned to be afraid. "Where's Mama Asia, buddy?" "She crying," Tyler whispered, glancing fearfully toward the hallway. "Dana mean to Mama Asia. Make her sad all the time." Before Matt could process this fully, Dana's voice rang with false delight as she swept into the kitchen. "Matthew, you're early! What a wonderful surprise!" She reached for a kiss, but Matt instinctively stepped back, Tyler still clinging to him. In that micro moment he caught it, the flash of annoyance that crossed her perfect features before the mask snapped back into place. In boardrooms, Matt had learned to read such tells. Dana had just revealed herself. "Where's Asia?" "Resting, I think. She's been difficult lately." Dana's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Tyler's been quite the challenge too, haven't you, sweetheart?" She reached toward Tyler, who shrank against Matt's shoulder with genuine terror. "Mama Asia scared," Tyler whispered, so quietly only Matt could hear. The pieces arranged themselves with brutal clarity. Tyler's fear, Asia's absence, Dana's theatrical concern covering something much darker. "I want to see Asia now." "Of course, darling. But first, let me show you Tyler's behavioral reports. I've been documenting the issues." "What issues?" Matt's voice carried the dangerous quiet that had made Fortune 500 CEOs sweat. Dana produced a manila folder with practiced efficiency. "Tantrums, regression, attachment disorders. I'm afraid Asia has created some very unhealthy patterns. Children need structure, Matthew, not constant coddling." Matt scanned the typed reports, each page a fiction more elaborate than the last. According to Dana's documentation, Tyler had become a troubled child, requiring constant discipline and professional intervention. This clinical portrait bore no resemblance to his son. "This isn't Tyler." "Children behave differently when parents aren't watching," Dana replied smoothly. "I think you'll find that proper boundaries and consistent discipline." "Enough." Matt was already moving toward the stairs, Tyler clinging to him like salvation. He found Asia in her room, and his heart nearly broke. Her vibrant spirit had been dimmed to embers, eyes swollen from crying, shoulders bent under invisible weight. She looked like someone who'd been fighting a war alone and losing badly. "Matt." She tried to smile, failed completely. "You're home early. What has she done to you?" For just a moment, Asia's carefully constructed walls cracked. He saw the depth of her pain, her exhaustion, her fear. Then she rebuilt them with the practiced grace of someone who'd learned to survive by hiding her wounds. "We're adjusting to the new family dynamic," she whispered, using Dana's own words. It takes time. That's not what I'm asking, and you know it. Tyler lifted his head from Matt's shoulder. Dana hide elephant. Dana scary to Mama Asya. Make Mama Asya clean floors. Matt looked into Asya's eyes and saw the truth she couldn't voice. His son and the woman he loved had been living in terror while he played businessman across the country. This conversation isn't over, he promised quietly. But downstairs, Dana was waiting with her folder of lies and her perfectly rehearsed explanations. She spoke of Tyler's behavioral challenges and Asya's inappropriate boundary violations with clinical precision. Professional, reasonable, utterly false. I think it would be helpful for you to observe their interactions, Dana concluded. You'll see what I mean about the unhealthy attachment. Then they heard it, laughter. Pure, joyful, alive. In the garden, Tyler was chasing soap bubbles, his face transformed with the happiness Matt remembered. Asya knelt beside him, her own face radiant with love as she blew more bubbles into the golden afternoon air. Mama Asya, more bubbles! Tyler ran to her with absolute trust, and she gathered him close, both of them dissolving into giggles as bubbles drifted around them like magic. For a moment, they were complete, mother and child in their own perfect world of innocence and joy. See how she undermines his adjustment. Dana's voice was silk over steel. She refuses to let him grow up. She encourages this inappropriate dependence. But Matt wasn't listening anymore. He was watching his son's face, seeing the love that poured between him and Asya like sunlight through crystal. He was understanding finally that the poison in his house wore Chanel and spoke in measured tones about appropriate boundaries. The woman he'd agreed to marry was the disease, not the cure. We need to talk, Matt said to Dana, his voice carrying the finality of closing arguments. For the first time since moving into the mansion, Dana's confidence flickered. In the garden, Tyler's laughter rose like music toward the Miami sky, and Matt knew he would burn down everything he'd built to protect that sound. The reckoning had begun. Chapter 9. The Confrontation. Sometimes evil reveals itself not in grand gestures, but in a moment of careless cruelty, when masks fall away and monsters show their true faces to those they thought were powerless to stop them. Matt Anderson had built his fortune on his ability to read people, to sense deception across a boardroom table, to know when someone was playing games with his empire. But he'd never needed those skills more than he did now, standing outside his own home office at midnight, listening to his fiancée destroy everything he'd thought he knew about her. Dana's voice carried clearly through the door she'd left slightly ajar, her tone completely different from the sweet, caring woman she presented to him. This voice was cold, calculating, and filled with a vicious satisfaction that made Matt's skin crawl. "Oh, Melissa, you should see this place," Dana was saying, her laugh sharp and ugly. 20,000 square feet of pure luxury, and it's all going to be mine in 3 weeks. Matt pressed closer to the door, his heart pounding with a mixture of fury and disbelief. The kid? God, he's such a little brat, constantly whining for that nanny, crying over everything. Don't worry, though. The second we get back from the honeymoon, I'm firing the help and shipping Tyler off to boarding school in Switzerland. Matthew won't fight me on it once we're married. Matt felt the blood drain from his face. Shipping Tyler to boarding school? Firing Asya? What? No, of course, Matthew doesn't know, Dana continued with another cruel laugh. He thinks I adore his precious little prince. You should see the act I put on, all loving stepmother and gentle discipline. He eats it up. Men are so easy to manipulate when they think you're what their dying mother wanted. The reference to his mother's dying wish hit Matt like a physical blow. Had Dana orchestrated that too? Had she somehow known about his mother's heart condition and used it to her advantage? The nanny is the only real problem, Dana was saying, examining her manicured nails as she spoke. She's got Tyler wrapped around her finger, and he's completely devoted to her. But I've been making her life miserable for weeks now, making her clean up messes I create, treating her like the servant she is, showing Tyler exactly who's really in charge here." Matt's hands clenched into fists as he listened to Dana describe her systematic abuse of Astia, the deliberate humiliation, the psychological warfare, the cruel manipulation of a woman who had done nothing but love his son. "You want to know the best part?" Dana's voice took on a particularly vicious tone. "The kid defends her constantly. Yesterday he actually tried to protect her from me. Can you imagine? A 2-year-old trying to stand up to me. So I taught him a lesson about respect." Matt's blood turned to ice as Dana recounted with evident pride how she'd slapped Tyler for trying to hug Asia when Dana had forbidden it. "Just a little smack across the face," she said dismissively. "Nothing that would leave marks, but enough to show him who's boss. Children need to learn their place early, don't you think?" Matt could barely process what he was hearing. Dana had hit Tyler. She had deliberately hurt his son and was bragging about it to her friend, as if it were an amusing anecdote. "Matthew's completely clueless," Dana continued. "He's so buried in his grief and guilt about his precious Isabella that he can't see what's right in front of him. By the time he figures out what I really am, it'll be too late. I'll have his name, his money, and legal rights to that house. The kid will be safely tucked away in boarding school where he can't interfere, and the nanny will be nothing but a memory." Matt had heard enough. More than enough. His entire body was shaking with rage as he slowly backed away from the door, his mind racing with the full scope of Dana's betrayal. She had manipulated his mother's illness, exploited his grief, abused his son, and tortured the woman who had saved their family from darkness. But he forced himself to think strategically. If he confronted Dana now, based only on what he'd overheard, she would deny everything and probably accelerate her timeline. He needed proof. He needed to catch her in the act. Unfortunately, he didn't have to wait long. The next morning, Matt made a show of leaving for what he told Dana was an all-day client meeting in Orlando. Instead, he parked his car several blocks away and returned to the house through the garden entrance, his key making no sound as he slipped inside. The house was eerily quiet until he heard voices coming from the main living room, Dana's sharp tone and Tyler's frightened whimpering. "I told you not to ask for her," Dana was saying, her voice deadly cold. "How many times do I have to explain this to you? Miss Williams is not your mother. She's not even family. She's just the help, and when your daddy and I are married, she's going to go away forever." Matt crept closer, positioning himself where he could see into the living room without being detected. What he saw made his vision go red with rage. Tyler was backed against the sofa, tears streaming down his face, while Dana loomed over him with an expression of pure malice. In her hand, she held the wooden spoon Matt had seen her carrying around lately, what he'd assumed was a kitchen utensil, but now realized was an instrument of intimidation. "I want Mama Asya," Tyler whispered, his small body trembling with fear. "Well, you can't have her," Dana snapped, "and if you ask for her one more time, you're going to get a spanking that you'll remember for a very long time." Tyler, despite his fear, showed the same courage that had made Matt proud since the day he was born. At almost 2 years old, he looked up at this woman who terrified him and said with as much defiance as his small voice could muster, "You not my mama. Mama Asya love me." The slap that followed was sharp, loud, and vicious. Dana's open palm connected with Tyler's face with enough force to knock the toddler backward against the sofa cushions. "Don't you ever talk back to me again," Dana hissed. "And stop calling that woman Mama. She's nothing to you. Nothing." Tyler's scream of pain and terror filled the house, but instead of comforting him, Dana raised her hand again. That's when Matt exploded into the room like an avenging angel. "Get away from my son!" His voice carried the full fury of a father's protective rage, causing Dana to spin around with wide, startled eyes. For just a moment, her mask was completely gone, and Matt saw the true face of the woman he'd almost married, cold, cruel, and utterly without remorse. "Matthew," she gasped, immediately switching to her fake sweetness. "You're back early. Tyler was having a little tantrum and I saw what you were doing," Matt said, his voice dangerously quiet as he moved to scoop Tyler into his arms. His son clung to him desperately, sobbing against his shoulder, a red handprint clearly visible on his small cheek. "You don't understand," Dana tried again, her voice taking on the reasonable tone she'd perfected. He was being completely defiant, refusing to listen. "Children need discipline." "Children need protection," Matt interrupted, his grey eyes blazing with a fury that had made grown men back down in boardrooms across the country. "Children need love. Children need safety. What they don't need is to be terrorized by a psychopathic gold digger who sees them as obstacles to her meal ticket." Dana's face went pale, then flushed red with anger. "How dare you? How dare I?" Matt's voice rose to a roar. "How dare you? How dare you come into my house, abuse my son, torture the woman who loves him, and think you can manipulate me with fake tears and fake concern? I don't know what you think you heard." "I heard everything," Matt said coldly. "Your phone call last night, your plans to fire Asya and ship Tyler to boarding school, your little games with my mother's illness. I heard it all." The last of Dana's pretense fell away, revealing the calculating predator underneath. "So what if you did?" "We're getting married in 3 weeks, Matthew. I'll have legal rights then, rights to this house, to your money, to decisions about Tyler's future." "Like hell you will." Matt shifted Tyler to one arm and pulled out his phone with the other. "Security?" "This is Matt Anderson. I need you to escort Miss Retke from my property immediately. She's not welcome here anymore." "You can't do this," Dana shrieked, her composure completely shattered. "Your mother wanted this marriage. It was her dying wish." "My mother wanted Tyler to have a loving stepmother," Matt replied coldly, "not an abusive monster who hits children." As if summoned by the commotion, Asya appeared in the doorway, her eyes immediately going to Tyler's tear-stained face and the mark on his cheek. "Oh my God," she breathed, rushing forward. "Tyler, baby, what happened?" "Dana hit him," Matt said simply. "She's been abusing both of you while I was away." Asya's eyes filled with tears as Tyler reached for her, babbling about how the mean lady hurt him. She took him into her arms, and Matt watched his son immediately calm down, his sobs quieting to hiccups as Asya murmured soothing words. "This is exactly the problem!" Dana screamed, pointing at Asya with shaking fingers. "You let that woman poison Tyler against me. She's turned him against his own future mother." "You were never going to be his mother," Matt said with deadly quiet. "Asya already is." The words hung in the air like a revelation, and Matt saw Asya's eyes widen with surprise and hope. "Security will be here in 5 minutes," Matt continued to Dana. "I suggest you start packing. And Dana, if you ever come near my son again, if you ever contact anyone in this family, I will destroy you so completely that you'll wish you'd never heard the Anderson name." "You'll regret this," Dana screamed as she stormed toward the stairs. "I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone what kind of man you really are." "Tell them," Matt said calmly. "Tell them I'm the kind of man who puts his son's safety above everything else. Tell them I'm the kind of man who protects the people he loves from predators like you." 20 minutes later, Dana Retke was escorted from the Anderson mansion by 2 security guards, her designer luggage piled unceremoniously in the back of their SUV. As the gates closed behind her, Matt felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't even realized he'd been carrying. In the living room, Asya was tending to Tyler's cheek with ice wrapped in a soft cloth, singing softly while he snuggled against her. "I'm so sorry," Matt said quietly, kneeling beside them. "I'm sorry I didn't see what she was doing sooner. I'm sorry I put you both through that." You couldn't have known, Asya said softly. She was very good at hiding her true nature. Tyler tried to tell me. You both tried to tell me, and I didn't listen. Asya met his eyes, and in them Matt saw forgiveness, understanding, and something else that made his heart race with hope. You're listening now, she said simply. Tyler, exhausted from his ordeal, had fallen asleep in Asya's arms. As Matt watched the woman he'd been too blind to see gently stroke his son's hair, he realized that his mother had been right about one thing. Tyler did need a loving stepmother. He'd just been looking in completely the wrong direction. Asya, he said quietly, we need to talk. She nodded, carefully transferring the sleeping Tyler to Matt's arms. Yes, we do. For the first time in months, Matt felt like his family was whole again. Broken, maybe after Dana's cruelty, but whole in the ways that mattered. And tomorrow he would begin the process of healing what had been damaged and building what should have been built long ago. Chapter 10. Love Conquers All. Sometimes the greatest love stories are not about finding someone new, but about finally having the courage to claim the love that has been growing quietly in your heart all along. The Anderson mansion felt different in the golden light of the following morning. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by peace that Matt hadn't felt in months. Tyler woke up asking for Mama Asya without fear, and for the first time in months, his request was met with smiles. Matt found Asya in the garden, where Tyler was playing with his beloved elephant. Tyler was showing the elephant to the flowers, chattering away while Asya watched with patient love. He's picking flowers for you, Matt said, approaching quietly. For Mama Asya's tears, Asya replied softly, accepting the daisy Tyler presented with ceremony. He's been so sweet this morning, as if he knows the scary times are over. Tyler looked up at Matt with bright eyes. Daddy, mean lady gone. Gone forever, buddy, Matt assured him. She can never hurt you or Mama Asya again. Good, Tyler said with simple finality. He handed Matt a yellow marigold. For Daddy's happy. As Tyler went back to his flower distribution, Matt faced Asya, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time since she'd walked into their lives. I owe you an apology, Matt said. More than an apology, I owe you my life, Tyler's life, and I nearly threw it all away. Matt, please let me say this. He gathered courage for the most important conversation of his life. I was a coward. I let my mother's illness and my own guilt blind me to what was right in front of me. I love you, Asya. The words hung in the garden air like music, and Matt saw Asya's eyes widen with surprise and hope. I love the way you sing to Tyler, how you remember every milestone, how you brought music back into this house after Isabella died. I love that Tyler calls you Mama, because that's exactly what you are to him. Matt, Asya whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I was going to marry the wrong woman to fulfill a promise, but the right woman has been here all along, loving my son, healing my heart, making our house a home. Tyler toddled over, carrying his elephant and flowers. He presented the flowers to Asya with ceremony, then hugged both her and Matt's legs. Mama Asya, stay forever, Tyler announced with confidence. Forever is exactly what I'm hoping for, Matt said, reaching for the small velvet box he'd been carrying since dawn. Asya Williams, will you marry me? Will you be Tyler's mama officially and my partner in everything? Asya looked at the ring, a beautiful sapphire surrounded by smaller diamonds, elegant and warm and perfect. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, of course, yes. As Matt slipped the ring onto her finger, Tyler clapped his hands with delight. Daddy, marry Mama Asya, family. Family, Matt agreed, kissing Asya softly while Tyler danced around them. Their moment was interrupted by someone clearing their throat. They turned to see Misha Anderson standing at the garden entrance, leaning on her cane. Matt felt Asya tense, but he squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Mother," he said carefully, "I know this wasn't what you planned." "Oh, Matthew," Misha interrupted, her voice filled with relief. "This is exactly what I planned." Both Matt and Asya stared at her in confusion. "I don't understand," Matt said slowly. Misha moved into the garden, her eyes fixed on Tyler. "My heart condition was never as serious as Dr. Martinez made it sound." "What do you mean?" "I mean I asked him to exaggerate the severity. I manipulated the situation to force you into a corner where you'd have to make a choice about Tyler's future." Misha's voice was filled with regret. "I was terrified that you were so buried in grief that you couldn't see what Tyler really needed." Matt felt the world tilt. "You lied about being dying." "I lied about how close to dying I was," Misha corrected. "I needed you to feel pressure about Tyler's future, to really think about what kind of woman you wanted raising him. I gambled that when faced with marrying someone inappropriate, you'd realize who the right woman actually was." Matt stared at his mother. "You manipulated me into almost marrying a woman who abused Tyler?" "I had no idea Dana was abusive," Misha said quickly. "If I had known, I would have stopped everything immediately. I thought she was simply cold and calculating, not dangerous." "But you knew Asya was the right choice all along?" Misha looked at Asya. "I knew from the first week she was here. I watched how Tyler bloomed under her care, how you came back to life when she brought laughter into this house. But you were so determined to keep her as an employee that I was afraid you'd never see her as anything else." "So you thought terrorizing all of us was the solution?" "I thought creating a crisis would force you to examine your heart," Misha replied. "And I was right, wasn't I?" Tyler chose that moment to toddle over to his grandmother, presenting her with a crushed dandelion. "For Grandma Happy," he announced. Misha's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the flower. "Thank you, sweetheart. Grandma is very happy." She looked up at Matt and Asya. "Can you forgive a foolish old woman who loved you both too much to let you waste your chance at happiness?" Matt looked at Asya, seeing his own emotions reflected in her eyes. "We forgive you," Asya said quietly. "But no more matchmaking schemes." "Deal," Misha agreed immediately. 3 months later, Matt Anderson married Asya Williams in the same garden where Tyler had picked flowers to heal his mama Asya's tears. The ceremony was small, but filled with joy that comes from love finally recognized and claimed. Tyler served as ring-bearer, taking his job seriously as he carried the rings in a basket decorated with flowers. When the minister asked if anyone objected, Tyler called out, "I do," with enthusiasm, causing laughter when they realized he meant he supported the marriage. During the ring exchange, Matt surprised everyone by pulling out a worn envelope. "Before I met you," he said to Asya, his voice thick with emotion, "Isabella left something for the woman who would love Tyler like a mother." With shaking hands, he read Isabella's letter aloud. "Find someone who will love Tyler like I do, someone with a mother's heart, not just a mother's title. You'll know her by how Tyler responds to her love. She'll give him what I cannot, the chance to feel safe in a mother's arms again. Love her, Matthew. She's my gift to both of you." Asya realized that Tyler's elephant, the one that had comforted him through every difficult night, had been Isabella's way of blessing their bond from the very beginning. "I love you," Matt whispered as they were pronounced husband and wife. "I love you too," she whispered back. "All of us." "All 3 of us," Tyler corrected loudly, holding up his elephant. "Elephant family too." As their guests applauded and rice was thrown, Matt realized that the greatest love stories aren't just about finding each other. They're about recognizing that love has been guiding you home all along. In the end, love had conquered all: fear, manipulation, and duty. Isabella's spirit had guided them through Asia's hands, Tyler's pure heart had shown them the way, and Matt's courage had claimed the family that had always been meant to be theirs. And in a mansion in Coral Gables, Miami, three hearts that had found each other in darkness were finally, completely, joyfully whole, blessed by love, both living and eternal.